Good morning, Napa Valley Unitarian Universalists, and welcome to our online worship service. I'm Reverend Dr. Leisa Huyck. I'm your parish minister, and Tricia Lewis is your celebrant this morning. I am so happy to have you with us this morning, the first weekend in May. In this month, in the height of spring, the world celebrates many diverse festivals: Ramadan, Mother's Day, and May Day, and many others. All this month, we will be pondering the question, what does it mean to be a people of thresholds? What a rich theme. Just think of the thousands of thresholds, big and small, that we experience in human life. Being born, learning to walk, starting school, coming of age, finishing school, leaving home, entering relationships, ending relationships, starting jobs, ending jobs, getting married, parenting, kids starting school, kids finishing school, kids leaving home, kids coming back home, kids getting married, kids making you a grandparent, becoming ill, getting well, dying. These are just a few of the liminal moments in life, the times when we go over a threshold from one state of being to another. This moment in history is a good time to think about thresholds. Partly because right now we go over so few physical thresholds that we can really pause and think about the change that happens when we go outside of our home or back inside our home, into a room where we sleep, or out of it into a room where we work, or out of it. And partly because this is such a fraught and liminal time in our world, when we're poised on the threshold of something new and we have no idea what it will be. In this spirit, this morning, we light our chalice with these words from Arlen Goff.
Thresholds. We cross them every day, from room to room, from outside to inside, and back again, from here to there, from anywhere to everywhere, from age to age. Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation, from what we were and what we are to what we can be. In this hour and this place, we cross a threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into an awareness of new life pregnant with possibilities. How will we be renewed in this moment? How will we be changed by this hour? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community? Come, you longing, thirsty souls. Come, let us worship together. Now, let us center through music. I invite you now into a moment of receptivity and reflection as we share the joys and sorrows of this community. We make sacred the milestones of our lives when we share them with each other. We have here a bowl of water and some stones. If you would like to share your joy or sorrow with all here, you can type it into the chat. If you have a joy or sorrow, or even just concern in your heart, and do not need to share it with all here, type the word stone in the chat, and Reverend Leisa will place a stone in the bowl for you.
I place one last stone in the bowl in honor of all those joys and sorrows that remain in the silence of our hearts. I invite you now into a time of quiet reflection. Get comfortable in your seat. Pull your hands off your keyboard and hold them open in your lap. Place your feet on the floor and feel your connection to the earth, right through the floor to the living soil beneath. Feel how the earth supports you. Pull your shoulders up to your ears and then drop them. Receive a breath from all that is green and growing, and then return that breath to them. Receive a second breath and then return it. A third breath and then return it. Spirit of life, you who unfurl tiny spirals of cells into ducklings and roses and babies and ferns. Now is our warm blue and green time, when the air smells of oaks and growing grass. Wildflowers bloom on hillsides and creek banks, and newts find each other in cold, clear water. Grosbeaks and finches and wrens sing elaborate songs all day, and owls and crickets call for mates through the moonlit nights. Help us ground ourselves in all this beauty so we can open our hearts. Help us open our hearts so wide and so deep that they can fill with an entire ocean of love. Help us feel the joy of that love. Help us open our hearts so deep and so wide that they can hold all the pain of this suffering world and soothe it with our love. Help us open our hearts to one another. Move through us as compassion for all those who fear and all those who mourn. Move through us a celebration for all who are experiencing joy, and help us know who we really are, each a beloved, essential being, all part of one great, living, breathing, changing, shining whole, whose nature is love. Help us open our hearts to love. Blessed be. Let us now enter a time of silence. The music will bring us out.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know, 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 I know. I know, 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 I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear, I know my fear, I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know this rose, I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose, I know this rose, I open, 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 fear will open. I know my soul will unfold its wings. I know this rose will open.
Today was originally scheduled to be Celebration Sunday, the day we celebrate this community and what it means to be part of it. The day we celebrate the conclusion of our canvas for funding to keep this congregation going and maybe even grow it a little bit next year. The day we think about who we are as a religious community and why we're here. I had planned to remind you that it was just about a year ago that I came to introduce myself to you. I was going to remind you of the sermon I preached then, called rather unimaginatively, "Who are we and what are we doing here?" In that sermon, I spoke of all the problems in our nation and asked, in the face of these problems, these questions. In a country such as this, what good is Unitarian Universalism? What use is liberal religious community? What is the point of gathering every Sunday? Who are we and what are we doing here? And on Celebration Sunday, we might add the question, in times such as these, isn't it selfish to spend money on our own church community when there's so much need in the rest of the world? I was going to talk about these questions again and reflect back to you what we've accomplished together in this past year. Then we'd have a big party and there would be much rejoicing. And yet, the world has completely changed. It has completely changed, yet it is much the same. The same intertwined problems still exist. There are still poverty and inequality and racism and domestic violence and war and homophobia and transphobia and mass extinction and climate change. These intertwined problems are made much more visible by the ongoing pandemic and also more complicated and more difficult to address. So who are we now? And what are we doing here now? And on this Celebration Sunday, what is there to celebrate? Let me begin, as usual, with a very ordinary story. The other day, I went to town to get some groceries and some seedlings for the garden. As is my custom when in public, I wore my mask and my gloves and did my utmost to stay 6 feet away from other people. In the Briar Patch Food Co-op, my favorite place to shop for food, most others did the same. The co-op is a model cooperative business, the front edge of the wave of the future for all businesses. Every employee and every member who is a shopper is an owner. We make equity payments until we're fully vested, and then we receive dividends from the business's profits. Most members have a high level of education and enough income to be able to afford to join the co-op and to buy organically grown food. At the co-op, the checkers are wearing masks and gloves. Only 40 shoppers are allowed into the store at a time. There are marks on the floor in the lines to show how far apart to park the carts. There's a plastic shield between shoppers and cashiers. The belts and counter surfaces and even the stylus you use to sign the electronic pad get wiped down between shoppers. They haven't gotten to the point of requiring all shoppers to wear masks, but as a person with an autoimmune disorder, I feel fairly comfortable shopping there because of all the precautionary measures. My second stop after the co-op was the hardware and garden store. No one was wearing masks, not even the checkers. There was no limit to the number of customers, and people brushed past each other in their haste to get the items they needed. No one observed distancing in the lines. It was as if there were no pandemic at all, except that a couple of older people had masks around their necks or over their mouths, but not their noses. I couldn't stay in a place where no one was taking precautions, so I went to the car to wait for my husband, Steve. As I sat there, I observed the custom at the liquor store nearby, and it was the same. No masks, no distancing, nothing to indicate we are in the middle of a global crisis. I was deeply upset, but maybe not for the reasons you might imagine. On my social media feeds, I see people becoming angry at the people like those at the hardware store and the liquor store, or laughing at them and calling them stupid. It is all too easy for those of us with a great deal of privilege to do this. But here's the problem. There is a vast inequality here that will place the people who frequent the hardware store and the liquor store at much greater risk of getting COVID-19 than people like me. People like me have enough education and income to first understand the danger, second, be able to afford to take precautionary measures, and third, shop in stores where the patrons and management can all do the same. People who are going unmasked and ungloved and even protesting the closure of businesses do not. They do not have access to what they need. If they did, they would understand why businesses must close, and they would not be harmed by those closures. When we close businesses without making sure there's a comprehensive safety net for those whose livelihoods are endangered, we pit one group of scared citizens against another. This is a classic move by politicians who want to distract the people from what is really going on, which is always about rich and powerful people getting richer and more powerful, while poor people get poorer and less powerful. In the short term, we can demand that all retail businesses require checkers and customers to wear masks and observe physical distancing. In the medium term, we can demand that our government tax the extremely rich to raise funds for that comprehensive safety net. In the long term, we need to address the fundamental inequality that causes people not to be able to understand the danger of a fatal virus or take precautions against it. Because the cause of this fundamental inequality is the same as the causes of mass extinction, climate change, homophobia, transphobia, racism, and all the other interrelated problems I spoke of earlier. When I came to visit you a year ago, I explained that the dominant culture in which we are all enmeshed is built on a foundation of fear. Its most fundamental belief is that people are individuals alone in a dangerous world in which they need to control everyone and everything around them in order to survive. This belief is expressed by a creation story in which women, people of color, and nature are placed on earth by a dominant male god to serve white men. This belief and this story lead to a social structure called kyriarchy, 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 which is a system characterized by domination. Domination of other people, domination of nature. Power over instead of power with or power to. This is what many Unitarian Universalists have lately been referring to as white supremacy culture, and it is what we must dismantle if we want human life on this planet to continue. It is all built on fear. We can offer something better. We are love people. Our theology counters fear with love. And that's where we come back to the questions, who are we and what are we doing here? Right now, our society is in a liminal space, poised on a threshold between worlds. There's the old world, the world before the pandemic, the world in which kyriarchy reigns supreme. There are many possible new worlds. Which door will we open? Which new world will we enter? John Shar has said, the future is not some place we are going, but one we are creating. The paths are not to be found, but made. And the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. Which world will we create? This morning, I read a story to our children called The Invisible String by Patrice Karst. I often find that children's literature expresses great truths in ways that are far superior to complicated adult treatises. As an old Native American proverb goes, tell me the facts and I'll learn. Tell me the truth and I'll believe. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever. So, since we did not get to be together with the children today, I'm going to tell you this story also. I've adapted it just a tiny bit for telling rather than reading, and we have permission from the author and also the publisher, Little Brown and Company, to share the story online. The Invisible String by Patrice Karst. Once upon a time, there were twins named Leisa and Jeremy. One calm and quiet night, they were asleep when suddenly it began to rain very hard. Thunder rumbled until it got so loud that it woke them up. "Mommy, Mommy," they cried out as they ran to their mother. "Don't worry, you two. It's just the storm making all that noise. Go back to bed." "We want to stay close to you," said Jeremy. "We're scared." Mom said, "You know, we're always together, no matter what." "But how can we be together when you're out here and we're in bed?" said Leisa. Mom held something right in front of them and said, "This is how." The twins came closer to see what Mom was holding. I was about your age when my mommy first told me about the invisible string. "I don't see a string," said Jeremy. "You don't need to see the invisible string. People who love each other are always connected by a very special string made of love." "But if you can't see it, how do you know it's there?" asked Leisa. "Even though you can't see it with your eyes, you can feel it with your heart and know that you're always connected to everyone you love. When you're at school and you miss me, your love travels all the way along the string until I feel it tug on my heart. And when you tug it right back, we feel it in our hearts," said Jeremy. "Does Jasper the cat have an invisible string?" asked Leisa. "She sure does," said Mom. "And best friends like me and Lucy?" asked Leisa. "Best friends too. How far can the string reach?" "Anywhere and everywhere," Mom said. "Would it reach me even if I were a submarine captain deep down in the ocean?" asked Leisa. "Yes," Mom said, "even there." "Or a mountain climber?" asked Jeremy. "Even there." "A dancer in France?" "Even there." "A jungle explorer?" "Even there." "How about an astronaut way out in the stars in space?" "Yes, even there." Then Jeremy quietly asked, "Can my string reach all the way to Uncle Brian in heaven?" "Yes, even there." "Does the string go away when you're mad at us?" "Never," said Mom. "Love is stronger than anger, and as long as love is in your heart, the string will always be there. Even when you get older and can't agree about things like what movie to see or what game to play in the back seat or what time to go to bed. Oh, that's right, you two should be in bed." And with that, they all laughed as Mom chased the twins back to their beds. Within a few minutes, they were asleep, even though the storm was still making the same loud noises outside. As they slept, they started dreaming of all the invisible strings they had, and all the strings their friends had, and their friends had, and their friends had, until everyone in the world was connected by invisible strings. And from deep inside, they could now clearly see that no one is ever alone. And that is the end of that story. Or is it just the beginning? That invisible string is what we are all about. It's why we give so much of our time and our talent and our treasure, our money, to this community. We are spinning the invisible string of love and sending it out in tendrils to each other's hearts. We're extending that string from my heart to yours and from yours to mine. We're extending it from yours to each other's in every possible direction. Imagine the strength of the web we're weaving. From that strength, we spin more invisible string and we send it out into the wider world. Individuals among you are held and supported by our web of love and strengthened to send string to others, like the patients Brian Randall sees, the homeless folks Chris Malin works with, the hospice patients Ann Youngerman sings to, the LGBTQ families Kate Moon's family has rainbow playdates with. As a congregation, in addition to serving meals to homeless people at the table, we belong to Common Ground, a local organizing group that works with underserved people in Napa and Vallejo, Solano County. Common Ground organizes events at which people tell their personal stories of love and loss and need and hope to city officials. I attended one of these events and it was powerful to see strands of connection developing between the hearts of people hurting in this system of curiarchy and the hearts of city officials who can make policies to help them. As these strings of connection grow, the web gets wider and stronger and more dense. This congregation with Common Ground is helping create a web of connection so dense and strong that we are actually weaving the fabric of a whole new world. This is why it is the very opposite of selfish to spend our money on our own church community. A religious community is a place where we can actually practice living in right relations with each other and with the larger community of life. It is a place where we can hold each other in love and then send that love out into the world, and by doing so, create the world we dream of. We are love people, and we are here to embody love. And that is truly something to celebrate. So let there be much rejoicing. May it ever be so. Amen. Blessed be.
Now Dave Lindsay has a stewardship announcement.
Good morning. I'm Dave Lindsay, your board treasurer. Today was the day we had set aside to have a stewardship celebration marking the end of the pledge drive. But since we can't be together physically, we'll have to put that off for another day. But I do have some exciting news to report about our pledge drive. We've had a great response from all of you, and nearly everybody has either held their pledge constant or increased it for the next year. This is a tremendous act of faith in this uncertain time. And I want to thank everyone that has submitted their pledge form. There are a few people we haven't heard from, and you'll be getting calls. But if you want to avoid getting a call, please send in your pledge form, or you can simply email me at treasurer@nvuu.org. Now, I want to thank all the stewards, the stewardship team that called everybody in the congregation. So we had people from the stewardship committee, Nancy LaFortune, Perry Murray, and Jane Bledsoe. Plus we recruited a couple of people from the board, Ann Youngerman and Susan Oken. So these people were the people that took their time to call and have great conversations with people in the congregation. I could tell you I really enjoyed the calls I had when I was reaching out to people. So again, thank you very much for contributing to our success for next year. And we have the information we need to put together a budget that will be approved in June. Thanks again.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This congregation depends entirely upon the generosity of its members and friends. All that we give in time, talent, and treasure is what sustains this community and makes it not just a sanctuary for us to return to for spiritual nourishment, but an oasis from which we can go out into the world carrying the waters of life. You can donate by going to our website at nvuu.org and clicking on the donate button, or send a check to us at NVUU 1625 Salvador Avenue, Napa, California 94558. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Thank you for your many gifts. All you give and all you do is vitally important in building the beloved community in our region. I especially want to thank Tricia for being this morning's celebrant, and Brian Shaw for not only his music, but also for producing this service. Now, if you have any announcements or invitations into community, please share them on the chat. David Lindsay has shared with us that as a result of another action by Common Ground on Tuesday, the Solano County Board of Supervisors adopted a resolution which builds on statewide protections for renters, allowing tenants to negotiate a payment schedule for unpaid rent for up to 1 year after the state of emergency is lifted. The resolution also prohibits late fees during this period. This will enable thousands of renters to stay in their homes until they're financially back on their feet. Common Ground is now organizing another action to persuade Napa County to do the same. And Maggie Ingalls has also asked me to share that on Tuesday, there will be a statewide action to ask Governor Newsom to mend the hole in the safety net that undocumented immigrant families whose essential workers contribute so much to our economy are falling through. I sent you an email about how to register for these and attend them on Zoom. Now, let us sing our closing song, Love Will Guide Us.
Give
In closing, I offer you these words from Reverend Margaret Weiss. The church has left the building. The church is not a place, it is a people. The church is not only a steeple above the tree line, streets, and cars. Rather, it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and of justice. The church is not walls built stone upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather person, linked with person, all ages and genders and abilities, a community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but the commitment day after day and moment after moment of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, a pew. The church is a gathering together of all the people and experiences and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts, gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache, and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Now, people of this beloved community, the church has left the building, and yet we are always together, connected as we are by unbreakable, invisible strings. Go forth from this time, knowing you are held in our vast web of love. Go shining. Blessed be.